Assalamu alaikum. My name is Saadat Nisar and I shall be teaching you this course on electronic commerce. Electronic commerce is believed to have equal underpinnings in three different areas of study, that is technology, business and policy. Accordingly, this course has been designed such that we shall be studying a few topics from the technology side, a few topics from the business side, and some topics from the law and policy side. Let's have a look at the course outline and the suggested reading material. We'll start our course with the definition of the term e-commerce and the types of e-commerce. You may have heard about B2B, B2C, C2C, etc. The question is, why do we classify e-commerce into all these classes? We shall precisely be looking at the logic, the reason why do we classify e-commerce in a short while. Thereafter, our next topic would be Internet and Worldwide Web Basics. Afterward, we shall review the Internet standards and protocols, then the topics such as IP addressing, the OSI model for communication purposes, the Internet layers, the domain name system. All these topics, they are fundamentally related to the working of the Internet, and we need to have a comprehensive review of these topics. Our next major topic would be networking devices. Under this heading, we shall review the working of the bridges, switches, and the routers. Router is a very key device which is used for the transmission of data across the Internet, and we'll have the comprehensive understanding of how the routers, they operate for the transmission of data purposes. Then comes the role of ISPs for the transmission of data. We shall review that. The issues that how can we obtain the IP addresses or how can we obtain the domain names. We need to know the procedure prescribed for that. We'll be doing that in this course. Then the understanding of electronic mails. What are the various protocols which are used for the electronic mails and how do these protocols operate? We shall have an understanding thereof. Our next major topic would be the markup languages and the World Wide Web. In this topic, we shall see what is XML, what is HTML, how cascading style sheets and JavaScripting are used for the development of websites. Precisely, we'll focus more on the HTML, which is the main language prescribed for the development of websites. We shall review various tags, and in that we shall see how we create tables, how do we create forms, how do we build hyperlinks, etc. Then our next major topic would be client-side and server-side processing. We basically want to know what type of data is processed on the client side and what type of data is processed on the server side. Then what are cookies? Cookies basically are defined to be those text files which are stored on the client's hard disk, and they are utilized primarily for the purposes of tracking the customers online as well as for maintenance of state. The issue is what is meant by the statelessness of HTTP, what is meant by the statelessness over Internet, and how can we maintain state over the Internet. We shall be developing an understanding in this regard as well. Next topic would be the two-tier, n-tier architecture. We'll have a review of that. Our next topic would be the security issues over the Internet. You may have noticed that security today is the main issue which has impeded the growth of electronic commerce worldwide. So we need to know what are these security problems, security issues, and how they are to be tackled. Under this heading, we shall familiarize ourselves with the terms firewalls, virtual private network, proxy server, etc. The major solution that technology experts have so far provided to handle the issue of security over the Internet is cryptography. Now, cryptography is defined as those mathematical techniques which the experts have been able to develop, which are very fundamental, which are very useful for the attainment of security on the Internet. So we shall review the terms such as public key infrastructure, the certification authority, the digital certificates, and how the digital signature technology operates, what are public and private keys, how do we implement our digital signatures using our private keys. All these things we shall be discussing in this major topic. Our next major topic would be electronic payment systems. Remember that it is very easy for individuals, for customers to do shopping online. The problem arises when they are asked to make payment online. They are sometimes required to put their credit card number on a text box. So there people start feeling discomforted. Precisely focusing that in mind, the experts have so far been able to come up with certain electronic payment models, such as virtual PIN payment system, centralized account system, electronic check, e-cash, SSL, SET. These are all those payment models which are being prevalent in Europe, in North America, and they are quite successful so far. On the business side, we shall start our topic with the definition of the term e-business, the advantages and the disadvantages of e-businesses with the traditional offline businesses. Similarly, we shall also make a comparison of the paper and the electronic catalogs. What are the various advantages which electronic catalogs carry over paper catalogs? Next, our topic would be electronic data interchange, EDI. Now, EDI is a technology which was a precursor of electronic commerce. That technology was being employed for commercial purposes before the internet revolution came. We need to have a basic understanding of this technology, and inshallah we shall be doing that in this course. Next major topic would be e-business models. We shall examine as to what are the various e-businesses which we find on the web today, and what are the distinguishing features in each such e-businesses. Internet marketing is another very important topic that we need to focus during this course. Remember, Internet has provided a unique opportunity to the marketers because it has opened a new avenue for the marketers. The Internet is very speedy. You can transmit your marketing messages instantaneously, very cheaply, very effectively from one part of the world to the other part of the world and without any extra cost. So therefore, these are the unique features, the advantages which the marketers can capitalize upon for their marketing campaigns. We shall see what are the various techniques that have been developed in this regard by the marketers. On the business side, a very important topic is data mining. Data mining is defined as the task of discovering interesting patterns from large amounts of data. As to what is the application of data mining in the business world, that would be our primary goal in this course. Data mining has different classes, so we shall study what is association mining, what is classification mining, and what is the implication they have for the business world. Our major topic on the business side would be the e-business strategy. So we shall study what is value chain analysis, what is supply chain analysis, and what is the role of e-commerce in this regard, and what influence has e-commerce put on the famous Michael Porter's model. So that would be our main goal on the business side in this topic. Thereafter, we are going to look at the various features of e-banking. E-banking is a hype these days everywhere in the world. So we shall be looking at what is the technology that is being employed for e-banking, and what are the various goals that have been set in this regard, and how are the various aspects which have been developed in this behalf. Then enterprise resource planning is another topic. We shall be definitely doing that. On the law and policy side, our aim would be to see as to what are the various legal issues that have cropped up with the advent of internet. So we'll start with the topic the salient features of Electronic Transactions Ordinance 2002 in Pakistan. This is the only law in Pakistan on e-commerce that has been introduced so far, and basically this deals with the use of electronic documents and the electronic signatures. It provides legal recognition to electronic documents. It provides legal recognition to electronic signatures. It talks about certification authorities, digital certificates, and we shall be having a comprehensive review of this law during this course. Then what are the various global legal issues that we need to understand on the legal side? So to start with, we'll have the notion as to what is the territorial jurisdiction and what are the conflict of laws. Remember that internet transcends geographical boundaries. So therefore, laws may be different in Pakistan from laws in America. In case there is a legal dispute regarding internet transaction, then the issue arises where the case has to be filed, according to the laws of Pakistan or according to the laws of America. At times the issue with respect to the conflict of laws arises, and we need to precisely understand what are the guidelines to resolve all such issues. Then what is the legal scope of online contracts? If we click on an I accept button or I agree button on the internet, do you think it has given rise to a lawfully binding contract? So we'll have an understanding about all these things. Then online defamation. Online defamation means that you injure someone's reputation using the internet. On the internet, you can insult somebody, you can disseminate some poisonous material about somebody's reputation, and yet you can expect to remain anonymous because of the technology itself. So therefore, particularly in Europe, in America, there have been cases, the courts are replete with cases of online defamation. We need to understand as to what is the guideline, the legal scope. We have to understand that. Copyright in cyberspace is another very huge area of concern. Once there was a debate that probably copyright law is dead over the internet. I'll give you an example. You download a website, apparently you have made an extra copy of that website on your computer machine. Have you not violated the copyright law? Have you not made an extra copy, additional copy of that website's author without his permission? So these issues, they are very fundamental, and we need to have a fair understanding of these problems. The issue of ISP's liability is again area of concern, and we need to understand what are the demarcating boundaries where we say that ISPs are liable and where the ISP's liability is not attached. Domain name, trademark conflicts would be another problem. And then the cyber crimes, online fraud, forgery, hacking, all these terms, they have their legal connotations, and these crimes, they were not familiar before the internet revolution came. So these are new issues, they require new solutions. Privacy online again is a big problem, and your informational privacy rights, they are regarded very sacred. Particularly people abroad, they are very sensitive about their informational privacy rights. That is precisely the reason that now we see that in Europe and America, there are full-fledged laws on the informational privacy only, on informational privacy alone. So these are some of the issues that we shall be discussing in this course. Let's have a look at the suggested books that we need to associate with in this course. The main book that we shall be following is Electronic Commerce 4th edition by Gary P. Schneider. I have found it to be a very useful book. Another book is Electronic Commerce, Security, Risk Management and Control by Greenstein and Feynman. Electronic Commerce, a Managerial Perspective by Turban et al. Is another very good book. So these are the 3 books I would recommend for this course. There are a few other books whose help has been sought for the development of this course. One is Absolute Beginner's Guide to Networking. This is 3rd edition by Joe Habrican. Creating a Web Page, 5th edition by Paul McFadries. Web Security, Privacy and Commerce by Garfinkel and Spafford. Data Mining, Concepts and Techniques by Han Kember. E Commerce, Strategy, Technologies and Application by David Whitley. And then last, Internet Law in Canada, 6th edition by Michael Geest. Let's begin our course now. Today it is believed that the world has turned into a global village. The main reason is that Internet has proved to be a very powerful tool for the transmission, for the dissemination of information from one part of the world to the other part of the world. So these facts that Internet can be used very effectively, very cost effectively and very efficiently, very speedily for the transmission of data from one point to the other point all over the globe, it has prompted people to indulge into electronic commerce. This leads us to the definition of the term electronic commerce. A generally accepted definition of the term electronic commerce is before you in this slide. According to that, electronic commerce is an emerging concept that describes the process of buying and selling or exchanging of products, services and information via computer networks, including the Internet. This is a generally accepted definition of electronic commerce. You may have noticed that there are a few keywords which have been used in this definition. One is buying and selling. There is a common perception in our minds that we do shopping online, we purchase items using the Internet from an online shop, and that is it. This is electronic commerce. We confine the meanings of electronic commerce to just buying and selling. This is wrong notion. In fact, according to this definition, e-commerce also includes the exchange of products, services and exchange of information. So we cannot exclude the exchange of information from the definition of e-commerce. This exchange of information anyhow should have some commercial bearing, or this exchange of information should be for the provision of some facility, some service to the individuals, to the customers. I'll give you an example. For example, e-government. You may have heard of this concept quite frequently. Under this concept, the endeavor of the government is to provide certain services, certain facilities to its common citizens. Therefore, it is quite possible that citizens might access that e-government website. They download those forms or those proformas, they fill out those forms, and they electronically submit these forms to the e-government database. Therefore, the citizens, they are not required to line up themselves in the queues for obtaining these proformas, for obtaining these forms. They very conveniently just can download these forms, fill them out electronically and submit to the databases of the e-government website. This is a facility, no doubt a great service which a government can provide to its citizens and without any profit, without any extra cost. So in this case, you see there is an exchange of information, there is transmission of some data. It has got no commercial bearing as such, but it is only related to providing certain facilities, certain services to the citizens. The next question that can be posed is as to whether these ATM networks, are they covered under electronic commerce? The answer is yes. If you look at the definition we have just seen, it also includes the exchange of information through computer networks. It does not confine itself to internet alone. Therefore, any computer networks which have an exchange of information having some commercial bearing or the exchange of products or services, that would be still electronic commerce. So these ATM transactions, I would say they are covered under the term electronic commerce. Now we want to see what are the different types, different classes of e-commerce based upon the nature of transaction. You may have heard about B2B, B2C, etc. Commonly, there are about 6 classes, 6 categories in which e-commerce has been divided. First of all, B2B or business to business e-commerce. In this type of e-commerce, both the buyers and the sellers, or both the parties, they are organizations, they are corporations, they are full-fledged businesses. These are not individuals. So these are, you can say, the electronic market transactions. I'll give you an example. Say there is an online cement industry, an online cement business, and there is an online electronic industry. If they interact with each other, if they do any transaction with each other, that would be covered under B2B. This is, by the way, the most popular type of electronic commerce. Then the next type of e-commerce is B2C, or business to customer or business to consumer. In B2C, the seller is an organization, is a business, and the buyers are individuals or the customers like you and me. There are many online businesses who are selling computers or who are selling, that matter, books. You access these online businesses and you can do your shopping from there. These are all the examples of B2C transaction. The next type of e-commerce is C2C, that is from customer to customer or consumer to consumer. There is no organization, no company, no full-fledged business is involved. These are just individuals who are sellers and who are buyers. Some organizations, they can play the role of intermediary, but they are not actually involved in the transaction itself. The example is certain famous auction sites. Okay, you may have experienced that on the auction sites you can put your items for auction purposes. You give the specifications of your items and the price you want, the reserve price you want for your items. Then individuals, they access that online auction site and they discover that these are the items which are placed there for auction purposes. These individuals then can offer for these items, they can bid for them, and whose bid is the maximum, he then wins the auction and he is entitled to purchase such items. So this is how the auction online works. Another example of C2C is selling your items through classified ads. There are certain websites which carry banners or which carry advertisements or ads, and by looking at these advertisements you find out that there are certain individuals who want to sell these items, and then if you are interested you can do the buying from these individuals. Here again the transaction itself is actually between individuals. The next type of e-commerce is C2B, the fourth type of e-commerce. That is from customer to business. In this type, the seller is the customer or the individual, and an organization, a company or a business is the buyer. So in case I create a website and I offer certain items for sale on that website, I am not otherwise any business, any organization, any company, and the buyers from me are organizations or are companies, then that would be categorized as C2B. Next type of electronic commerce is intra-business electronic commerce. In intra-business electronic commerce, there are certain internal activities which are applied for the selling or buying purposes, they are confined to a particular organization alone. So the example is that if I have a network for my organization, for my business, and I offer certain items for sale to my employees working within the same organization on discount, that would be covered under the intra-business EC, intra-business or organizational EC. Similarly, if I want to impart certain online training to my employees, again, I can exchange certain information, I can interact with my employees in this regard, and all these activities would be dubbed as business, intra-business or organizational EC. The last type of e-commerce is the non-profit EC. And this type of electronic commerce is used by academic institutions, by not-for-profit organizations, by research agencies, by social or welfare organizations, by government agencies. The idea behind this EC is not to make any profit, right? The aim is to provide good services or good facilities to the stakeholders and to reduce your business expense. So these are some of the major types of electronic commerce which we have just reviewed. The question arises, why do we classify electronic commerce into these categories? What is the need for that? The answer is that we need to know our online business. We need to know that whether we are doing B2B or we are doing B2C, we need to know exactly what are we doing. Because based upon this knowledge, ultimately, we are going to embark upon our marketing plan. Accordingly, our marketing plan would be clearly different in case of B2C as opposed to B2B or C2C for that matter. Therefore, it is imperative that we know our business properly. We need to know that primarily we are B2B or primarily we are B2C. I'll give you an example. In case of B2C, you may have realized that a business is directly in contact with its customers or individuals. So the net effect is that individuals or customers, they can provide their immediate feedback to that business about its product or about its services, etc. And in light of that feedback, then that business can modify its marketing plan or it can introduce a new marketing scheme altogether. Such facility, such advantage is not available to you in case of B2B. Because in B2B, in certain cases, you are not at all directly in contact with the end customers. Example is, for example, you are a supplier of certain raw material sitting online, selling your raw material online, and there are certain manufacturers who are sitting also online and they buy this raw material from you. Then they convert this raw material into some end product and then they sell this end product to the customers. Here in this particular example, the raw material business is not in direct contact with the end customers. It is just supplying its raw material to the manufacturer business. Accordingly, the limited feedback for your raw material supplying business you can obtain would be from those manufacturers who get this raw material from you. You cannot get the clear feedback, the immediate feedback from the end customers directly. So in this case, your marketing scheme, your marketing plan can be quite different as opposed to in case of B2C, where you get the direct information from your customers and based upon that, you improve your marketing scheme. So that is the reason precisely we need to know our business and we need to modify our business plan, our marketing plan accordingly. Okay, as you're watching in the slide before you, there are some basics about the internet and the World Wide Web. First of all, there is the term web client. That means the machine that initiates an internet request. Then the term is web server. Web server is defined as the machine that services or that entertains those internet requests, and accordingly then it provides you the web pages you have requested for. Then the term browser, you must be quite familiar with that. That is a software which is installed on the client side and which interacts with the web data. Using browser, you make requests for web pages to the server machine. Intranet is another term. Intranet means an internal network of computers which is confined to a single place. So any set of computers, say 8, 10 computers, if you assemble them and you connect them with each other at a localized single place, then you can call that as an intranet. You can also call that LAN or local area network. Another term is extranet. Extranet is defined as when two or more intranets are connected with each other, they form an extranet. The example of an extranet is a virtual private network. We can discuss this concept in detail in some later lecture, but for the time being, I can just give you an introduction, feel of this concept. Assume that there is a branch office of an organization, say situated in Lahore, and it has got its branch computer network. Then the head office of that organization, say, is located in New York and it has got its own bigger computer network. If the branch office wants to be a part of that bigger head office network, this can be done with the help of virtual private network concept. You need to configure certain VPN protocols to enable the branch office to be a part of the bigger network, the head office network, and avail of its resources and to the communication with that. That typically is an example of an extranet. Then the term internet. Internet is defined as a global network of networks. This is a simple definition of internet, the largest network we can expect. Internet is a hardware thing, a purely hardware thing. If you visualize, internet would prove to be certain PCs and certain routers, bunch of wires connected together with each other, and that can constitute as a global network of network. As you can see in the slide before you, internet presents a client-server model. That is, it's a two-way communication model. You may find hundreds of thousands of client machines connected to the internet on one end, on one side, and many server machines connected to the internet on the other side. So basically it's a two-way communication model. There would always be some client machine making requests to the server machine on the other side, and both would be connected through the internet. The server machine, as you can see in this slide, it contains certain files, certain websites. You prepare these websites and then you store these websites in any server machine, and associated with that file there is a URL. The word URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator. Using this URL, then you can, being a client, you can make a request for that web page to a server machine. This leads us to the definition of the term World Wide Web. What is World Wide Web? Now, World Wide Web is defined as a protocol that uses the internet as the communication structure. The question arises, what is meant by a protocol? The protocol, or simply the network protocol, is defined as the set of rules, the set of standards, using which two computers on a network can communicate with each other. They can understand each other's messages. In other words, it's a language. The protocol is a language using which two computers can talk to each other. Essentially, a protocol is a piece of software. So this piece of software is inbuilt within the operating system that you are using. Web, we go back to the definition of web. Web itself is a protocol. It uses internet, the hardware thing, as a communication mechanism. You can visualize that web, therefore, which is a software thing, is the soul, the spirit that runs through the hardware thing, the internet. So without this protocol, this software thing, internet would be meaningless. The native protocol for the World Wide Web is HTTP, that is Hypertext Transfer Protocol. That is the main protocol using which you can send your web page request to the server side. So you may have found that your URL starts with the word HTTP. When you write the URL containing HTTP, you press enter. Immediately, the piece of software on your computer machine that is associated with this word HTTP, it gets activated, and as a result, it sends an instruction to the server side, telling the server side that I need a web page. Please send me this web page whose URL has been entered. So this is how the HTTP protocol then works. This HTTP protocol is also installed on the server side, the other end, and with the help of this HTTP, then the server side is able to know that the HTTP of the client side has asked for a web page. HTTP is a 4-step process. So any HTTP transaction would entail these following 4 steps. In the first step, the client would make an HTTP request for a web page. That is, the client machine would make a TCP or IP connection. We'll shortly know what is TCP and IP connection. TCP stands for Transmission Control Protocol and IP stands for Internet Protocol. We'll study that in our subsequent lecture. So, by establishing this TCP or IP connection, the client side basically connects to the server machine in the first step. In the next step, step number 2, the server accepts this request and it sends that page, that web page which was requested as HTTP. In the third step, the client downloads that page is now available on the client's computer screen. In the fourth step, the server then immediately breaks the connection. Now this fourth step is very critical, very crucial to understand. It means that server breaks the connection. That is, the server has no memory whosoever had just made an HTTP request a while ago. This property of breaking the connection by the server side is called the property of statelessness of HTTP. This does not mean that your connection with the internet would be broken in the fourth step. Rather, your connection with the server would be broken. That is, this statelessness has caused a huge area of concern for shopping online, because the direct implication of this statelessness is that each operation or transaction over the internet is a new connection. Each click that you make on the internet is a new connection. Similarly, if there are more than one operations or there are more than one HTTP requests sent by different clients to the server simultaneously, then the server, although can serve all these different clients simultaneously, but these clients themselves would not be knowing that any other client has also made or accessed the server requesting the same web page. Now, when each click on the internet is a new connection, the question is, how do they do those shopping carts? How do they do electronic commerce? You may have experienced that when we go for shopping online, to an online business, normally we are required to undergo at least 3-4 different steps. Usually, first of all, we are asked to provide our registration information. There is a web form that appears before us, and in the text boxes we are required to enter different information, our name, our address, our email address, etc. So that is the first step. When you fill out that web form, you click on the register button. That is a new connection. That is your first connection to the server. And accordingly, this information you insert in the web form, that would be transported to the server side, but because of HTTP's statelessness, the server would break the connection. In the next step, you are normally asked to put certain items that you want to buy into a shopping cart, right? And when you select these items for buying, at the end there is a button, add to cart. You click on that button, that is a new connection. That is your second click, a new connection. Again, some information, the items you selected, that would go to the server side, and the server side would send you then another page. That page may have another button on it. You are required to make another click. That button is confirm order. You have to click on this confirm order button, and then that normally concludes your e-commerce transaction. You see, these are 3 different steps, 3 different clicks that you were required to make. First of all, you clicked that register button. Second, you clicked at add to cart button. Third, you clicked that confirm order button. Because of HTTP's statelessness property, there should not be any linkage between these 3 different clicks or these 3 different steps. That is registration step, add to cart step, and confirm order step. That causes a problem. You want to overcome this hurdle. Your anxiety is that it should be a comprehensive, related, interlinked e-commerce transaction. So therefore, you need to develop a backend. On the server side, you need to develop certain applications, you need to employ certain IT tricks, certain technology tricks, whereby you try to maintain this state. You try to overcome this hurdle of statelessness. For that, you need to develop a full-fledged backend on the server side. That backend would include different applications, different programs created in different tools, and their objective would be to provide the maintenance of state, which was caused by the statelessness property of HTTP. For that, you need to have expertise in different tools, say ASPs, JSPs, servlets. You can employ all these different techniques, different tricks to maintain the state. Anyhow, we shall be dealing with this intricate topic more in detail while we'll be doing the maintenance of state in a stateless environment in some other lecture. For the time being, I think that should be quite enough. There is a very important aspect that I want to point out to you here. That is the side effect of HTTP transfer. It means that each and every click that you make, or each or every visit that you make to a server side, your click or your visit or your transaction is being recorded on the server side. This information is recorded on the server side in a file called log file, which is automatically generated by the server, and it resides on the server side. This records your clicks. When did you make a request for a particular URL? From which IP address did you come? All this information is therefore recorded in the server log files. It is the policy of network administrator for how long he wants to maintain this log file. Sometimes it can be maintained for months, sometimes for years. That depends upon the policy of the network administrator, but this log file automatically gets generated and is residing on the server side. The format of this log file, it differs, but a usual format for the log file is that it contains a column of identity in which your IP address is recorded. The IP address, for the time being, it's enough if I inform you that IP address is that unique 4-numbered address separated by dots, which identifies your computer machine on the internet. For example, if I write 130.20.55.200, that is an IP address. Whenever you are in a session on the internet, you are assigned your unique IP address whereby your computer machine is identified. We shall discuss this topic, IP addressing, more in detail, but since there was a reference of IP addressing here, I thought it appropriate to tell you what an IP address is. So, back to log files. Your IP address is recorded in the log file, that you came from this IP address, you made this request to your web server machine from this IP. Then there is a column in the log file which is the request column, which means that for which URL did you make this request. The request made for a particular web page, the URL is therefore recorded in the log files. Thereafter, the date, on which date did you make this request for the web page, that would be recorded, and the status, whether your request was entertained, whether actually that web page was transmitted by the server, was given to you by the server or not, whether your request was accepted or not, that information would also be contained in the log file. The good news about having the log files is that user data is recorded in the log files. Your clicks, your visits, they are being recorded automatically on the server side. So, therefore, by analyzing the log files, one can identify the computer machine from where a web page request or access was made. So, for the tracking, for the identification of computer machines, the client machines, the log file analysis can be quite useful. This is the good news. The bad news, on the other hand, is that your informational privacy is at stake. Therefore, your clicks, your visits are being recorded. They might hurt your informational privacy rights. You may not want that to happen, but that's a bad news that is there. Now, the question is, what can we do with this data which is recorded in the log files? There are 4 points that I want to mention here. We can make use of this data in 4 different respects. One is that we can rearrange our website based upon the log file analysis. This means that since the URLs of each individual web page for whom the requests were made, those URLs are being recorded in the log files, we can therefore identify that such and such sections of our total website are more popular, they are being accessed more popularly, people are frequently coming to these web pages, and there are certain sections, certain portions of our total website which are being ignored. People are not making any frequent visits to these web pages. This gives us a clue from marketing point of view. This gives us the clue that maybe there is something wrong with the web content regarding those ignored portions of our site. There may be certain design problem with those pages. We need to focus more on that. We need to improve those issues. We should discuss it and we should come up with a better option. So, in light of the log file analysis, therefore, we can rearrange our website. We can make our ignored pages more attractive by rearranging the site. The second point is that we can change our marketing plan. This means that wherever we discover that no, there was nothing wrong with our ignored web pages content, they were user friendly, they were okay, then we should infer from there that there can be something wrong with our marketing campaign in relation to those products which are put on those ignored pages. The third point is that we can create a mailing list on the basis of information provided by the log files, which means that since the location of the customers who have reached an online shop, that location is identifiable through the log files. Therefore, in light of that, we can prepare a mailing list of all such individuals, such customers, and we can then send them personalized marketing messages. The fourth point that I want to highlight is that we can also track the criminals who commit a crime on the internet with the help of this data recorded in the log files. The concept is that since the IP address from where a customer had accessed a web page or had made a click, that IP address is recorded in the log files. From that IP address, we can trace the ISP that had provided internet services to any such individual. Then we can establish a contact with the ISP. ISPs, they do keep their own record, the record about their customers as to who among their customers was assigned this particular IP address at a given time. So by looking at this record of the ISPs, we can figure out at least that this was the particular machine, computer machine, from where the offense or the crime had been committed. The question that who was sitting on that machine at a particular time, that requires evidence, that requires witnesses, circumstantial evidence, that is something different. But with the help of the log files and the ISP record, we certainly can track the computer machine from where an offense or a crime was committed. So dear students, that was all for today. Inshallah, we shall be discussing our next very interesting topic, that is IP addressing and the OSI communication model and the domain name system in the next lecture or so. So till then, Allah Hafiz.